Have you been looking for a Taekwondo podcast with qualified people who know what they're talking about, who help you keep up with everything going on in the Taekwondo world? Well, you found it. This is the Taekwondo Podcast. Taekwondo news, competitions and other events, training and sports science, keeping the fans, coaches, and high-performance athletes up to date with the latest news and trends on Olympic Taekwondo. Let's do this. This is the Taekwondo Podcast. And now your hosts, Coach César Valentim and Peter Nessler.
Hello and welcome to the Taekwondo Podcast. We're a podcast based out of Austria, in English language, for everyone out there who likes Taekwondo. In this episode, we talk with Hugo Guerra, psychologist and mental trainer. We'll discuss the importance of mental strength and mental health in Taekwondo. Welcome to our podcast. I'm Coach César Valentim, and with me is Hugo Guerra, psychologist and mental coach to several Taekwondo players. Hi Hugo, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you, César. It's a pleasure to be here.
It's a pleasure is all mine. For everyone who's listening out there and don't know who you are, could you please tell us a bit about yourself?
Sure. I'm psychologist. I was educated in Lisbon, in Portugal, in organization and health psychology. And recently I encountered this field, sports psychology, which is something I do for the last 4 or 5 years.
So you've mentioned that you're a psychologist and I introduced you as a mental coach. What's the big difference between a mental coach and a sports psychologist?
Well, they both work at the mental side of the sporting people. The big difference is that the mental coaches, they don't have normally a psychology education background, and the psychologist has this same education, which means that they do normally 3 years of basic psychology, general psychology, and then they get a specialization, which is my case, yeah.
You've said you've been in Austria, but you're from Portugal. You've been working with sports psychology for the last 4 years. What is the difference between Austria and the other countries, especially the current status of sports psychology in Austria, neighboring countries, Portugal, whatsoever, all these differences?
Yeah, the sports psychology is relatively new. I mean, in Portugal, I know that this is been growing lately, and now I'm more familiar with this side of Europe. Let's say, put things like that. I know that in Germany the field is very well developed. The federation, the Olympic Federation of Germany, they work a lot with sports psychology. They have a great website where they put a lot of material available. And in Austria, I mean, the OBS, the Austrian Federation of Sports Psychologists, something like that, has started, and it's growing and growing. And the topic here, it's also getting bigger and bigger. And I'm happy about that.
You've mentioned Olympic organizations that have, of course, interest in sports psychology. You coming from Portugal, I guess most of the sports psychology is not made by the Olympic sports or developed by Olympic sports, by the football clubs. Do you see that similarities here, or is it very different?
In Portugal, it's true that the sports psychology is more connected with football because it's the major sport there. Here in Austria, I think it's mainly close to the snow and the snow sports like ski and skateboard and other disciplines, related disciplines. Football too, and a little bit, I would say, everywhere. But yeah, the main thing is also football here, I would say.
We mentioned sports psychology and high-level sports, high-performance sports, either Olympic or professional sports. Do you see that sports psychology and mental coaching for athletes being developed also at the grassroots level or only at the high peak level?
That's a good point that I would like to develop a bit. I would say that we've been talking about the differences between countries. In Germany, that side of the discipline where you can have a sports psychologist everywhere. and at the basic levels, but also at the top levels. And here you can find it maybe more on top levels, which is it's normal, makes sense. But the tendency is to diffuse all the discipline throughout all the sports and all the categories.
Is the mental coaching and the sports psychology something that should be done by someone else than the technical high performance coach, or should it be a combination of both?
I think if you have a combination of both, it's a major privilege, because if you have a coach who is specialized in their own field and specialized in training, and then you have someone who is specialized in the mental part, who got education on that field, on that area, I think it's an immense advantage, because then we can work specific parts of all that includes the life of an athlete.
Well, you've been working. I'm privileged. I've been working with you. you joined Taekwondo Center a few years ago. What is your role in the club?
Well, my general role is to be a support for all the participants at the club. And all the categories, all the athletes, all the people who are enrolled in the club. More specifically, I'm responsible for the mental training of the competition teams, which means that I get close contact with the athletes that take part on the official season.
Okay, so yes, of course, I know how you work and who you work, because it is my club. And we do have a high performance team that gets the mental training as a mandatory part of their training, just as strength training, just as technical training. But you do actually support the other teams during the pandemic, also with the mental health of the regular grassroots level. What's the difference between a grassroots level and a high performance athlete?
Well, I would say at this level the differences are huge, are big, because the grassroots level you can work the things, normal things, I would say basic things, the well-being of the sporting activity. When we're talking about the top level, the competitive level, then you have to have a more focused work and more reliable work, and you have to go through the process with the person you're working with. So it's much more developed work.
About the process that you developed with the athletes in the high performance, can you tell us a bit about the work you do there? So what are your planning strategies and the techniques that you use the most?
Yeah, sure. So I work with all athletes. With some, I'm more often. We meet more often than with others. Normally, we work based on the definition of what it is the season. So I'm talking about the planning of the season, and according to that plan, we work specific parts of the training and of the season, namely how the subject A or B, an athlete A or B, prepares himself or herself for the competition that's ahead, for the next weekend, in 2 weekends, and the work is based on that. We work also in person, and we also do online sessions, and I'm always available for spontaneous questions, the work then gets more and more specific as I work specifically with the different type of athletes.
Is the sports psychology field something that is also associated with mental health, and how important is the mental health of the players?
Yeah, mental health, it's a great topic. I'm not sure if you're referring to the clinical part but yeah, of course, when I'm working with athletes, me as being a psychologist with also clinical and health training, I'm also capable of detect several things in the person. But my main focus is not that. Of course, my focus, one of my focuses is to be sure that the person feels good. but my focus goes beyond that, goes on the sporting performance and on the how the athlete is capable of trust himself or herself and overcome the difficulties ahead.
I have a lot of questions about that. I think we're gonna do a little break, and then we'll come on second part and talk about those strategies. This podcast is supported by Hawken Dynamics. Hawken Dynamics believes that technology is most useful when it stays out of your way. That's why Hawken developed the world's first wireless force plate system with extreme usability. It is the quickest, easiest to use, and most robust solution on the market. It is trusted by all sports organizations, large and small, as well as tactical, military, and rehabilitation environments around the globe. It's force testing in the palm of your hand. Here at Taekwondo Center, we use Hawken Dynamics to test and monitor our team. The cloud-based platform allows us to access data and publish a variety of reports on the go. My favorites are trend reports and, of course, weight reports, where I can monitor different metrics to view progress and identify performance indicators, or to compare weights to a baseline data range. I use it on a daily basis to identify readiness. A simple jumping test takes me less than a minute to assess the entire team. Having my own Hawken Dynamics force plates allows me to test reactive strengths, maximum strengths, rate of force development, asymmetry, and so much more. The real-time feedback on the app is useful not only for testing, but as a training tool, making it more accurate and at the same time more engaging for the athletes. If you are interested in learning more about Hawken Dynamics or getting your own, the team can be reached at info@hawkendynamics.com or on Instagram or Twitter @HawkenDynamics.
This podcast is sponsored by First Beat Sports. First Beat Sports combines the most comprehensive analytics in team sports with a customizable interface to support real-time monitoring, recovery monitoring, performance management, and much more. The result? Data-driven decisions that support your athletes and team training, recovery, and performance goals. First Beat Sports is trusted by professionals. Over 23,000 athletes representing over 1,000 teams around the world rely on the solution to train and plan with confidence on a team and individual level using HRV-based insights. For more information, please visit our website, firstbeat.com/sports.
When talking about Taekwondo training, we need to talk about Athlete Analyzer. Athlete Analyzer is the first Taekwondo-specific athlete monitoring system. It is used by both national teams, regional squads, and small clubs to maximize performance, prevent injuries, and communicate with both athletes and trainer teams. Athlete Analyzer is a cloud-based system with a friendly smartphone app. You can plan and monitor every aspect of your training, even when you are not in the gym with your team. The easy-to-use video analysis tool is not like anything you've seen. It helps you understand your athletes and even their opponents, making this app the only tool you need to manage your team. Before I used Athlete Analyzer, I spent an absurd amount of time in front of the computer, creating spreadsheets and using half a dozen software solutions. I have athletes in my center, but also abroad, and with Athlete Analyzer, it's much easier to communicate, plan, and monitor their development. Now that I have extra time, I can focus on what matters, training my athletes, and it still leaves me some room to do other stuff, like this Taekwondo podcast. Athlete Analyzer offers you a 2 weeks free trial. Visit them at athleteanalyzer.com to sign up, or click on the link in the episode's description. To get the most of your free trial, I recommend you first book a free personal demonstration with Nicholas. It will give you a great insight of what Athlete Analyzer has to offer you and your team. It is well worth the time.
You're listening to the Taekwondo Podcast. Now back to your hosts, Coach César Valentim and Peter Nessler.
Welcome back. We've been talking to Hugo Guerra, a mental trainer, sports psychologist. We were talking about the work he does with the young athletes in Taekwondo. Let's, Hugo, talk about what are the topics that are most common for you to approach with the young athletes.
Okay. So when we're working with the athlete, we have to look from to the big picture first of all, which is like I previously explained. You have to see the moment previously to a competition, the competition itself, which is the fight, and the after or the debriefing. Speaking of the phase that is prior to the competition, we're talking about activation, preparation, setting goals. So we're talking about when we talk about the competition itself. we're talking about the moment right before the competition, the focus, the concentration, the mentalization and visualization of situations that might happen, and of course the moment after the competition, where we debrief. We normally talk about the how we deal emotionally with the results, and how we stand again sometimes, or how we redefine goals and objectives for the things to come.
And I imagine that as a sports psychology, it must that your approach to each athlete must be individual, the same as the training and strengths, or technical and tactical. Can you give us a few examples of how you prepare your athletes for the different stages, so the weeks prior to the competition or the day of the competition?
Sure. So before the competition, talking about like 2 weeks before, we normally define what are the goals. We manage expectations, see what is possible, what is realistic. During the competition, I mean, we're not there. I will not be there, but we predict. So we do a lot of visualization, what might happen. And like I explained before, the moment right before is crucial, where the athlete is normally nervous. So we try to use a lot of psychoeducation. What is this big word? Is educate to the person to know him or herself in a way that can relax by the person and him or herself, you know. So that's an example. And then during the fight, there are mental attitudes that can be used. For example, I remember a case where the constant looking of at the board, the result board, was a factor of distraction, and so we train that athlete to look less to the scoreboard in order to focus more on the process and not so much on the result. For example,
you do all these trainings with the athletes and you implement some strategies. How is your connection with the technical coach? How can you talk, and what can you not talk that should be kept confidential between you and your athletes?
Of course, as a principal, me as a psychologist, we as psychologists have a strict policy regarding what is talked inside the session. So nothing very concrete and personal is passed to the coach, and he totally understands, and so no problem around that. We generally discuss topics and goals and or guidelines to the athlete A, B, or C, and of course, me working also sometimes with the coach. We try to survey and to analyze the collective mood and how the things are going, and redefine goals, and it's around that. Yeah.
You also approach the players in a group session together with the technical coach, or just individual sessions?
Normally, we do individual sessions. But we also try to do workshops and work as a team. This is not, in this case, we are not talking about a collective sport, in the sense that the athlete goes to the sport event and fights for him or herself. But I think because they share a lot of things, they share the trips, the rooms, the meals, a lot of social time, and the training, of course, first of all. I think that a lot of work can be done also for the team in groups. Yeah.
Can you tell us a few examples where your intervention was extremely helpful? You mentioned the one about the player that was constantly looking at the scoreboard. Can you share some more without sharing any names, of course?
There are some cases I remember, one of the cases has to do with a more nervousness situation. I mean, I'm talking from the point of view of the mental process of this athlete is based on being anxious and nervous, and that, of course, in the way when we're talking about the preparation for an event, this is something that can complicate a lot the life of the athlete. So sometimes not only the focus and relaxation techniques can be helpful. In this case, they have been helpful, but they take time. But also the communication skills, because a lot of the problems that are around the situation like this have to do with the communication. So I've been using communication techniques and skills in order to develop on this person a better understanding of what the social environment is. It might be this might be a bit abstract, general, but yeah, I think you get the point. These things they seem more less important than they are. But when the person is suffering from something, then all the good influence can make the difference.
And I understand communication is still important, how you communicate with your coach, with your teammates.
Of course.
Yes, everything is important. Any other example you might share with us?
For example, I mentioned before the anxiety, and this is a question that is quite mentioned by the athletes, which is the weighing, making the weight. This is very, normally it's a source of stress, extreme stress. Because especially at these ages, we're talking about 18, 19, 20, 21, where the food ingestion is sometimes a topic, especially with women, with girls. And having to make this weight is sometimes very problematic. And because also involves discipline and emotional strength, emotional control. And so I would not say that I have worked with only one athlete, but this is something that I work with more than one athlete constantly.
That's already touching us a topic that is quite trendy right now. It's about the nutrition psychology, right?
Yeah, nutrition. I mean, the good point there. Good that you mentioned. And a nutritionist is also a part of this multidisciplinary team. He focuses on the best nutrition for the athlete, he or she, whoever does this, focus on that and wants to do the best job. But still, this process has a lot of emotional burden attached, and I try to deal with that emotional burden and try to go through this question in the best way possible.
That's something that I don't remember if we mentioned this in the podcast we had with our nutritionist, James Moran. But I know that in the workshops we did several times with the team, we do mention that nutrition psychologist is something that is very important. And of course, the cooperation between the psychologist and the nutritionist, as well as the technical coach, the fact of being a pluridisciplinary staff that takes care of the health and human performance. It's something that is unfortunately not as broad and spread out as in our case. We are at the Vienna Taekwondo Center. We do have a team that talks, and they have very good communication tools with each other. Do you see that it's a problem that is many teams don't have such an approach? Then the psychologist should be there as on a regular basis, not as an external, but someone that is part of the staff?
As far as I know, yeah, I would say, yeah, I don't know also so many cases, but I would say that, yeah, I feel most of all privileged that I can work in such a well-organized club with such a multidisciplinary team where everybody respects everybody and understands the role of everybody. So I think that's a big, huge advantage. And I see people around me happy and respecting that side and emphasizing that Yeah.
That's something that I should probably ask you before, but most of the listeners probably have that question. What's the initial approach for a psychologist, a sports psychologist, and the team? Because I know most of the athletes have this prejudice regarding psychology. They think that if I'm not sick, I don't need to go to a psychologist. And then they understand that mental coach and mental training is this part of the training as any other part, as nutrition, as sleeping, as regeneration, physiotherapy, strength and conditioning, kicking, punching, all that involves in Taekwondo. How was it in the beginning for you, talking to the athletes or getting them to accept you as a part of the training staff?
Good point there. It's been a process. You're right. Going to a psychologist is still somehow seen as a problematic, something that you only go if you are mentally ill or something like that. Of course, it's difficult to admit that you have a psychological problem, but it's not necessarily like that, especially on this area. I also, like I said before, I'm trained as a health psychologist and a clinical psychologist, but especially on this side of the psychology, the sports psychology, we are talking about our focus is on the development of the traits and development of the people's competencies. So we are not talking about the psychopathology or clinical questions. Everyone can have something clinical, of course, but we don't focus on that. Me and my colleagues don't focus on that. Our goal is like that. As soon as I detect someone who suffers from a clinical question and needs help, then I try to send this person to a clinical psychologist, because it's not because I can't do it, but it's not my role here. Answering your question, it's been a process, and I think now people understand more and more that they don't come to the psychologist because they are crazy. Let's put things like that. But they go to the psychologist because they want to be better and they want to be stronger mentally and more well prepared. That's the main challenge here.
Thank you very much, Hugo. If people want to know more about you or reach out, where can they find your social media accounts?
Right now I don't have any professional account. I have a personal account. People can search for me and try contact me through Facebook, for example. I use my phone. My method is still mouth to mouth, but I'm changing a bit that, and I'm working on that side and trying to build a professional website and be more present as a professional.
Okay, so we can let people know that they can reach out to you at the Vim Taekwondo website.
Exactly.
Exactly. Well, thank you, Hugo. It was a pleasure being here with you again and with everyone who is listening. This was a Taekwondo podcast. If you haven't already, listen to our other episodes that are available wherever you listen to your podcasts. We are releasing new episodes every Tuesday. Stay tuned, subscribe to the podcast, leave us a positive review, and share it with your friends. See you next time.
You've been listening to the Taekwondo podcast, keeping the fans, coaches, and high-performance athletes up to date with the latest news and trends on Olympic Taekwondo. Your host, Coach César Valentim, has almost 20 years of experience with high-performance Taekwondo and has worked all around the world as a Taekwondo trainer. Peter Nessler has been teaching Taekwondo for more than 20 years, and he's currently one of the top referees in Europe. We hope you enjoyed the show. Make sure to like, rate, and review, and we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, find us on Instagram at Taekwondo Podcast, on Facebook at Taekwondo Cast, and the website taekwondopodcast.com. See you next time.